Hey everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm back at you with another deep minimal house tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about how to make minimal house in the style of Sidney, Charles, and Cuartero. Sort of that more tech housey style, but still very deep house influenced and groovy and funky like minimal house. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available, and yeah, let's get started. Alright, so we're at 128 BPM, a little bit faster, but kind of gives it that more upbeat, hectic sort of groove, and the first sound that we have up here is actually these three stabs up top. So these stabs were all made using similar techniques. You can see, if you look at them, they're also all playing the same chord. It's all just based on this A minor chord. That's the key that we're in, is A minor. So you can see they all just play an A minor chord, and then this one, we add some extra voices. So we actually have a minor 9 chord here, because you can see we have the regular minor chord, then a minor 7th, and the 9th on top of that. So that just kind of gives it a more jazzy feel. This is that same chord, an octave down. And then in terms of the actual synth patches for these, they're all made in pretty similar ways. So I'll just kind of break them down quickly. So the first one is made, you can see, using analog. We have 2 square waves going into a bandpass filter. And then the bandpass filter has an envelope on it, as well as it's also being key tracked, meaning the lower the notes you play, the more closed the filter's going to be. The higher the notes you play, the more open the filter's going to be. And this gives you kind of a cool feel when you're playing with chords, you know? Like, if I just play like a basic, like that's C minor 9. If I turn off the key tracking, see, it's a little bit less dynamic. So it definitely sounds cool when you play with that on chord stabs like this. And then we have the amp envelope like that. And then we just have some chorus and a bit of echo, which you can see the echo is being automated. So we're automating the dry wet as well as the feedback, and it's really just at this one part, so it just kind of gets that like blast of echo, and then it just fades out because the dry wet and the feedback go back down. And yeah, the automation's important because it kind of makes it feel more alive, you know? It makes it feel like the sound is actually coming to life, and it's not just like a sort of 2D thing. The way I think about it is it's kind of like, you know, drawing a picture. You can either draw a picture, and it could be the coolest picture ever, or you could animate it and, you know, really bring it to life and make people feel something when they see it. That's the idea behind this. We're animating the sound. And then we just have some drum bus and a high-pass filter. The second stab is a bit deeper. You can see that one just plays, you know, every now and then, like once or so every 2 bars. Or every bar. And yeah, so this one's just meant to be, you know, a bit deeper and more kind of smooth. And one thing you'll notice is like with the programming, you can hear it kind of plays with that mid percussion right here. And you're getting these little grooves happening between different elements in the track. You know, having that stab and then some of the percussion grooving together creates a really cool thing there, and you can hear that in the track, and you really aren't able to tell what it is, but you know when you hear it. And this one's just made with FM synthesis. We have 2 sine waves. You can see the first one's actually an octave up, so you get that cool kind of metallic overtone. And then we just have a low pass filter with a bit of an envelope on it, so here's without the filter. And then with it. So yeah, just making the sound quite a bit deeper. You know, you want this one to be a little bit deeper. Definitely, like, filtering it like this makes a big difference, because when you hear this with the other stabs, you can immediately tell this one is more of a background element. Then obviously these bigger ones feel like a lot more up front and in your face. And yeah, and then that's just going through some chorus and a really short reverb and a bit of drum bus. And then the third stab. So this is also made with FM synthesis. It's 2 sine waves. They're both at the same octave this time. But you can see we have a low pass with an envelope on this one as well. And you can see it's quite a bit more of the envelope, so it's a bit more open sounding than that stab 2. And then we just have some chorus, another short reverb. That really helps to give it some space and kind of make it fit into like a room. And then we just have this echo, which is also being automated in a very similar way to how that first echo was. You can see. Same deal, we just get those like really fast echoes there. And then just some drum bus. And that is it for the stabs. You can hear like, it's actually not that crazy once you break it down. You just have to go in there and have different layers of them. Have like your sort of 2 main ones. And then you can have the little background ones underneath. And being able to make like a clear distinction between those in the track is going to be really powerful. So the next thing that we have here is the drums and percussion. So you can hear we have our clap. We have like these 2 percussions, which are playing together with... You can hear there's like the call and response between those. And then there's also this one that just comes in there. You know, just like little background elements that all add up to create a very full groove. Any one of these 3 on their own would obviously be not quite enough if those were the only percussions in the track. But then when you add those in with the hi-hats, with everything else, you know, it creates a groove. Then we have this little mid percussion. You know, just kind of like some bongos. You can hear how that's fitting in there. And yeah, and then we have the main hi-hat. Which the thing with this one, it's a pretty simple sound. If I play you the sound... Yeah, it's just your standard sort of like big fat 909 open hi-hat. What makes this one unique, however, is the way that we've shaped it. So you can see, I'm using the sustain and decay. I also pitched it down -1 to really shape it. And the thing is like, this is one of the things that took the most time in this project file actually for me, was getting the perfect length for this. Because if it's too long, it kind of throws off the groove because you just have this big... You know, like that feels weird. But if it's too short, then that also throws off the groove. You know, this feels like the intro. So you really have to get that perfect balance with the decay on there. Just really shaping this perfectly. And then we just have some bonus hi-hats. Just like some little extra ones you can hear. And then we have this shaker, like a live shaker. And then on the group of the drums and percussion, you can see I was playing with some drum bus, but all we have here is just a bit of saturation and a high pass filter. Here is without those. And then with them. So you can hear the saturator does a little bit of fattening, but what it's really doing most of all is it just kind of gives everything a more even texture, you know? When you process everything together like this, of course everything does get that processing, but it gets a kind of like sonic umbrella as well, that it's all kind of sitting under, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, it's like people ask, how do you get drum samples that sound like they're coming from the same place, so to speak? This is actually how you do it. It's not by like perfectly choosing the right samples and all that. It's just by choosing some really good samples and then processing them together, and that's what's going to make them perfectly fit together. And the high pass filter just, you know, cuts out the low end, makes sure that we're not going to get in the way of the kick and bass. And then we have the synth percussion. Which, if you listen, these are all just these 3 very simple little sounds. And these are meant to just add a bit of extra flow into the beat. Because if I turn these off, you can hear, obviously, you know, the track is there, but there's something missing. We don't have like a certain background element that's a bit more flowy and a bit smaller that's just going to add this extra flow to the track. And this is something I've heard in a lot of like Cuartero's recent work, Sidney tracks as well. I mean, pretty much everybody who makes this style of house uses these types of sounds. And so all they are is you can see these very simple synth patches with the operator, like you can see. This is just some white noise, and then it's going into a bandpass filter, which has an envelope as well as an LFO on it, moving it around. So you're kind of getting this like shifting texture. And then we just have an echo, which is obviously really fast, and then some drum bus. Then we have this one, which is meant to just be this quiet little synth sound. So this is actually just made using two sine waves. You can see we have this first one up at 2, and the second one is at the coarse pitch is at 0.5. So you get kind of a different texture when you do that. There's without the filter. And then you can see it's just going into a bandpass filter. And then just like with that last synth percussion, we just have an LFO on the filter. And then after that, it's just some drum bus just to beef it up a little bit. And it also helps to kind of take it away from sounding like a synth and makes it sound more like an actual percussion. And then the third one just plays at the end of every 2 bars. And this is actually more like a bass. You can see the notes it's playing, so it's just playing A across 2 octaves, very simple. Again, that's the key that we're in. And all this is it's just a little bass pluck, where you can see we have a square wave. And then it's just going into a low pass with an envelope. Very simple square wave bass. And then it's just going through some saturation and a high pass filter, so it doesn't actually get in the way of the bass. But again, these are going to be really important. Like, you'll notice that if you don't add these to your track, there's always going to be something missing. Like, something is just not going to quite be there. You need to make sure that you have the main big elements and you've got those sounding really good. But you also have to get these little background things and make sure that those are sounding really good as well. Then we have this kick, which is just one of my kicks that I made, layering some kicks together. And this is just like, you want to aim for like a big, very punchy, almost like a 909 kick like this. It's like it's a 909 with something a little bit extra to it to make it really big. And make it like really boomy like this. When you hear these tracks, you wouldn't think that they're using such boomy kicks. You might even think that they're using smaller kicks. But if you use a smaller kick, it's not really going to punch through the mix like this. And to assist with that, we just have a bit of saturation. Here's without it. And then with it. Oh yeah, that's the kick. And then finally, we just have the bass line. So it's a really, really simple bass line here. You just want to create like a nice, fat, groovy bass line like this. It's all about like, the only notes that we're using are just the notes that we need. Like, nothing extra, no, extra jumping around notes across different octaves, anything like that. It's just the notes that we need to fit into the groove properly. And all this is, as you can see, so it's actually just an A minor chord, because we have A, C, and E. So just really basic notes from the A minor chord to make up this bass line. And again, just very sparse. Lots of space between the notes. And then for the sound, this is just made with 2 saw waves going into a low pass filter. And one thing you'll notice is that this has a really short envelope. It also has a really short amp envelope. Usually I would actually try to make it a bit longer, but these kind of shorter, pluckier basses like this, I find people are using these a lot more now. So definitely recommend trying that. Like, just try short envelopes like that. And then we just have some drum bus on it, just to make it a bit fatter and more full sounding. And then those are just going, the kick and bass are just going to a bit of saturation together. So here's without it. And then with it. So kind of same deal as with the percussion. We're just making the kick and bass really fit together, really gluing them, and making it feel like one powerful low end that's going to hold the whole track down. Yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video, all the MIDI, every little individual layer is available right at the top of the description, as well as the full project file. They're all on my Bandcamp, right at the top of the description, like I said. This is a really great way to support me. If you guys enjoy these videos, I don't make a whole lot just with YouTube alone, but with these sample packs and different things like this, I'm able to keep going and keep bringing you guys new tutorials every day. So yeah, thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.